Connecticut Huskies, they have the awards. They have the accolades. But there's one thing eluding them. Today, they take their first step. We welcome you to Gamble Pavilion and Stores, where UConn is seeking its 42nd straight win against an intrastate opponent. It's opening day. The Huskies host the Quinnipiac Braves. And a very between UConn and Quinnipiac. Time to check out the starting lineups. First for the visiting Braves of Quinnipiac. Andrew McKenzie is the only starter returning from last year's team, which went 4-23 in the Braves' final season in Division II. The head coach of the Braves in his third season is Joe DeSantis. It's his first collegiate head coaching job. And for the UConn Huskies, we already told you about Richard Hamilton and Khalid El Amin. Jake Voskuhl, the Huskies would like to see average more than 7 points per game. It's his 68th career start. He's only a junior. Jim Calhoun in his 13th year at Connecticut, the only coach in college basketball history to win 250 games at 2 different Division I schools. The entire starting 5 is back for Jim Calhoun. What will be different about this year's team from a year ago?
We aren't as good right now as we were at the end of last season, and that's by design. We're trying to change our team a little bit, more diverse offensively, other scoring options besides just Khalid and Richard, and we really, I think, are a little different basketball team. And I think what we need to do is focus within, grow as a team, and be a better team than took the floor last March, this March. And really, that's what we're trying to do. Now, that's tough when you have people asking you questions every day about the end of the season where you haven't even started the season.
It may be an NFL Sunday, Bob, but somehow 10,027 people have managed to find their way here, as always.
Well, you see all those fans here. Jim's referring to the fact that they should enjoy the ride and not focus on the Final Four at this point. Enjoy every single minute of the game, of this game and all the games they're playing this season.
Jake Voskuhl and Bill Romano jumping up. The ball controlled by UConn. Ricky Moore will be defended by Andrew McKenzie, and Joe DeSantis starting out man for man, Bob.
Well, we'll see how long that lasts.
Khalid El Amin drives, and he'll get to the free throw line. Now, Joe said he would like his team to be a man-to-man team, but he realizes they can't play man-to-man against UConn for 40 minutes.
Well, he's going to mix up defenses, and I think he's the type of guy who was a hard-nosed defensive player himself when he played at Fairfield. Was an outstanding player there. Second-round draft choice by the Washington Bullets. I don't think there's any second-round draft choices on his team right now, so maybe if he could get out there and help him out a little bit, that might be even a little better.
The foul on Romano, his first. Romano is a freshman, outstanding high school player in the state from Weathersfield High School. And Khalid El Amin at the free throw line.
He's an outstanding free throw shooter, averaged 16 a game last year. Led the team in assists as a freshman.
Was the most valuable player of the Big East tournament. Here's trouble. Freeman with the steal. Couldn't quite finish, but he will get to the line. He was fouled by Ivory Stanley. So, you know, when you're any opposing coach, the first thing you have to do to prepare your team is how to handle that press. So far, Quinnipiac did not fare very well.
Well, Kevin just steps in front on the pass directly to the middle. Lots of times you'd like to enter the ball to the wing and then to the middle. He anticipated that well.
Freeman, the 6'7" junior from Springfield, Massachusetts.
You know, he's had an interesting career. In high school, he played with Timmy Thomas and was sort of a guy who was thought of in a second-degree capacity. And he's like that in a way here, too, although he's a star player and a surefire NBA guy.
Led the team in rebounding as a freshman, was second a year ago. Here's full court pressure by the Huskies, who jump out in front 2-0. This is Nate Pondexter, junior college transfer, to Ivory Stanley, a transfer from the University of Bridgeport. Another turnover. Richard Hamilton on the drive. He finishes. Hamilton, the preseason selection as the Big East Player of the Year, an award he won last year as a sophomore. McKenzie called for the travel. So, Bob, 3 Quinnipiac possessions, 3 Quinnipiac turnovers.
We're going to see one of them right here. Defense guys scrambling all over. Look at this hands by Voskuhl, and adept enough at clearing it properly so that they get the basket at the other end.
El Amin comes around the screen. Can't get it to go. Stanley with the rebound in the lane. This is Jared Grasso, a freshman from Syosset, New York. As we mentioned, the 3 turnovers and 3 possessions for the Braves.
Well, they can't simulate in practice what's going to happen in a game like this. The speed with which things are happening is much more higher on the RPM scales than they see.
This is McKenzie for 3. Rebound in the lane. Voskuhl and Freeman battle. Voskuhl pulls it down.
Nice movement that time by Quinnipiac. They need to get into the half-court set.
Down low, Freeman has position. Gets his own rebound. And it comes down to Grasso. And here comes Quinnipiac, still looking for its first points. He played nearly a minute and a half. Inside Romano over Voskuhl.
Nice touch by the big guy. Joe says he's got soft hands. We saw an example of it there.
Yeah, Joe told me last week that he felt that Romano will be a real scorer in the Northeast Conference League that Quinnipiac is in. Here's Hamilton for 3.
Is that a sweet jump shot or what, Bob? He is such a pretty player to watch.
A year ago, Hamilton led the Huskies in 3-point percentage, 40.4. McKenzie, the wide open look. And Ricky Moore, all 6'2" of them, pulls down the rebound over Romano, and Romano picks up personal foul number 2.
Not good news for Quinnipiac, but here we see Quinnipiac on the jump hook. The first points in the history of Division I basketball for the Braves.
Now, last year, to get ready for the schedule, they played 6 Division I opponents. They lost them all. After today, Quinnipiac will play Army in their home opener on Wednesday. Later on, they'll play Syracuse, their only other Big East opponent. Moore in the lane, feeds the cutting Hamilton. Oh, what a move by Hamilton! And the foul. Richard Hamilton navigating the baseline.
Simple backdoor move here. They come to help, but nobody with enough size to challenge the All-American.
So Hamilton will try to complete the 3-point play. Led the team in free throw shooting a year ago with an 8:43 clip. A quick 10-2 UConn lead. This is Nate Pondexter. Drives the lane and draws the foul.
You know, you can see that Quinnipiac is well organized. DeSantis has them knowing what to do against the press. And once they get adjusted a little bit to the speed with which things happen, I think they'll do a little bit better. They have to attack UConn's press in the middle and then pass opposite. And right now, this young man took the ball to the basket. Pondexter is a good athlete, a junior college player from Washington, D.C., has had a lot of basketball experience. I think it's going to help them a lot this year.
A year ago, Pondexter averaged 15 points a game at Hesser Junior College. Joe DeSantis feels that Pondexter is a talented player. He's the sort of player that Joe realizes he will have to learn to live with Pondexter's mistakes and try not to stifle his creativity. Now DeSantis switches to the 2-3 zone, Bob.
Well, they're going to have to mix things up, and obviously the zone will slow Connecticut down. It takes a few more passes to get a shot against zone usually, although Connecticut very adept with their good perimeter shooting and nice inside game as well.
Moore off the feed from Hamilton. Voskuhl with the rebound in traffic. Rebound pulled down by Pondexter.
Pondexter has played point guard, and here we see him pick up a foul on Hamilton in the backcourt. So they're able to move him to the ball handling role if Grasso has trouble bringing it up.
Foul number 32, Richard Hamilton.
First foul on Hamilton. Second on UConn as we see the reach in the backcourt.
Early season touch foul.
Stanley defended on the perimeter by Freeman. This is Grasso, coach's son. His father was a great football player at Hofstra. Here's the steal by Moore. That's 4 turnovers for the Quins. Freeman wants to drive.
The problem that Quinnipiac is going to face in this game is when they turn the ball over, UConn is very adept at turning turnovers into layups.
Trouble for Quinnipiac. Foul number 3 on Romano.
Here we see a leaving the feet mistake by a freshman guard, although he tries to make up for it by trying to take the charge. And of course, Connecticut on the break.
Moore does not draw iron. Stanley lead pass to Grasso. Jason Rosado in to replace Romano, who sits with the 3 personals. Voskuhl cleans up off the glass. El Amin for 3. Khalid El Amin Second on the team in three-point shooting a year ago. And UConn now leads it by 9. Here's El Amin with the push. First foul on Collard.
Now, Quinnipiac has got a lot of new players out here, and of course Connecticut is forcing turnovers, but they had 33 turnovers and 21 turnovers in their 2 exhibition games as well. So they are a team that does turn the ball over, but they have shot well from the perimeter. We'll see if they can do that a little bit as we progress here.
This is Stanley losing control, and the ball goes out of bounds for turnover number 5. Well, Joe DeSantis is really in a dilemma, Bob, and his approach to this game is the one that I certainly would use, and that is that, you know, I can't prepare my team for just the one opponent, UConn. We have to play the way we want to play for all 27 games, and the way they want to play is to push the ball up the floor.
Well, that's exactly what they want to do, Bob, and that's what they've got to do in this game. They've got to try to slow the pace in some way, shape, or form. And usually you do that by holding the ball a little bit longer on offense.
This is Hamilton for 3. Good rebound position by McKenzie. UConn by 9, 13-4. We played 4.5 minutes. Grasso, nice feed inside to Rosado. Loses the handle. Grasso picks it up. Turnover number 6 for Quinnipiac. And we have our first timeout. 15:28 to go in the half. UConn with an early 9-point lead. Jim Calhoun's Huskies off to a 9-point lead. The one word he keeps repeating, Bob, focus.
Well, they are focused. They look focused right now. And on the other hand, Joe DeSantis, from his standpoint, of course, Jim, the 4-time Big East Coach of the Year. And I suspect that'll happen quite a few more times in the future.
Only coach to win it 4 times. In a league with John Thompson, Jim Boeheim, and for years, Lou Carnesecca. That's an extraordinary accomplishment.
Well, they have been the team of the 90s in the Big East, and they've had an incredible 5-year run.
El Amin drives, blocking foul on Stanley. That will be his second, already 6 on Quinnipiac. E.J. Harrison is checked into the UConn lineup.
The dribble penetration right here, and he goes through 3 people. They're just not, their guards are not physical or quick enough to stay with El Amin. Maybe they need to force him toward the sideline a little bit, little double team action. But really in this situation, as we mentioned with Joe DeSantis, he has got to play minutes. He's got to play 4-minute spurts and see if he can't stay close and try to play to each television timeout. That's what you do when you're such an underdog like they are.
Connecticut number 34,
Suleiman Wan with his first appearance of the day, replacing Jake Voskuhl. And we'll see a lot of Wan this year as Jim Calhoun feels very comfortable with that sort of 2-man rotation at the center position.
Well, he does, and with Edmund Saunders coming in to spell Freeman, now you've got 2 guys at the 4 spot, so you really don't have to play Voskuhl and Suleiman Wan at the same time ever, unless you're maybe against Stanford. You might want to do that a little bit with 2 big guys in there.
And UConn will play Stanford on February 6th at Maples Pavilion. Teams ranked 2nd and 3rd in the country.
Nice step through by Grasso.
Stanley tries the reverse. A little out of control there. Rebound is loose. Pondexter gets it back. Tries to shoot over Wan and does. Joe DeSantis says Pondexter is fearless. He showed it that time. Harrison took 1 too many steps.
Harrison is the quickest player on the team, according to Coach Calhoun. And, of course, he was a little too quick right there. Shuffled his feet a little bit, but he made positive contributions last year. I watched them work out, and this guy has speed to burn.
Harrison, a transfer from Division III Western Connecticut State University. He played his high school ball in Danbury, Connecticut.
Averaged 19 for them, didn't he, Bob?
Yep, sure did. This is Grasso on the floor on the drive. Can't get it to go. Rebound knocked loose to Freeman. UConn by 9. We played 5.5 minutes on opening day. UConn will host Richmond here at Gamble Pavilion in their second game on Thursday. Richmond, of course, a team which upset South Carolina in the NCAA tournament last year.
Bayline from Niagara, now the coach there.
Hamilton with the 3 over McKenzie. 11 points for Rip, and UConn by a dozen. Grasso up the floor to Pondexter. In the corner to McKenzie. Has the open look. Freeman with good position and the rebound, and will put it on the floor himself. Not sure that was such a good idea. Gets it back from Harrison. Now they'll circle Freeman for 3. I don't think that's the shot that Jim Calhoun wanted.
Well, what you have to watch out for in a game like this, from Kevin's standpoint, is staying within and staying focused.
Juan with the block. Down low, and Stanley with the good step in and steal.
Fast-paced game right now, going up and down to Connecticut's advantage.
Jared Grasso, defended by Hamilton. Pondexter. And Harrison on the reach-in. So what do you do when you know your team is overmatched? Here's Joe DeSantis on that topic.
I've always gone by the motto that, you know, if you're fundamentally good and you try hard, you'll be successful no matter what. There are some things I can't control. There's no question that we're aware that this game has a potential to be a blowout. But really, I've prepared this team to come to win. We've practiced very hard. We've banged each other. We've tried to simulate the pressure that UConn puts on us, is going to put on us. But we know that was difficult to do. But I told the kids, no matter what, we're going to grab positives from this game. Whether it's the first 5 minutes, whether it's the first 10 minutes, whether we're down a bunch and come back, you can bet I'm going to gain positives from this game.
Joe DeSantis, a great player at Fairfield University. Edmund Saunders has made his collegiate debut for UConn and picks up his first collegiate foul.
I'm really anxious to watch Saunders. He was a top 50 recruit coming out of high school. Couldn't play last year because of academics. I think Kevin Freeman's sort of taken him under his wing to try to show him how to behave and act and practice like a college player should. He is a fine-looking young guy, physical, good scorer in high school. Certainly capable of making big contributions this year. Only a sophomore.
Jason Rosado picks up his first foul, and that's 7 on Quinnipiac. So UConn will shoot the 1-and-1 with 12:42 to go. Jim Calhoun considers Saunders his best passing big man, and he's a young man who's really been around the UConn program going back to 8th grade. He's attended almost every one of their home games the last couple of years. You frequently see him sitting behind the bench, and he was recruited by everyone in the country, but you just had the feeling all along that this is where he would wind up.
People may be wondering what happened on that free throw. When the defense steps in, no harm, no foul, you just count the make.
So Ricky Moore with both free throws to make it a 14-point UConn lead. Look out, Bob. It was headed our way. Wenzel, as always, was the first one under the table.
I didn't pass much. I was on the receiving end of those passes, Bob.
I'll tell you what, that man we just saw, Joe DeSantis, was an outstanding passer at Fairfield University.
And scorer.
Great combination guard.
Replacing Ivory Stanley.
Broke the Fairfield career scoring record while he was there. It has since been broken by Tony George. DeSantis, the second leading scorer in Fairfield history. 2-3 zone for Quinnipiac. Rochamel Jones checks in and gets his shot rejected.
Alagoli is a good player. He's from Switzerland, the fellow with the ponytail in there. As Joe looks on, he likes him. I think he feels that he can be a very good scorer. About 6'8", long, thin type player. Right there in your screen. That's what they wear in Switzerland.
This is Jones. Albert Mooring in the lineup for UConn for the first time. He's number 23. Moore inside Saunders for his first collegiate points.
And looked smooth doing it, I must say.
UConn by 16. Alagoli up the floor. This is Grasso, loses the handle. It's been a rough first half for Jared Grasso, who then reaches in and is called for the foul. We have a timeout, 11:54 to go in the half. Well, we're going to shoot some free throws before we cut away.
Grasso right there in your picture is a guy who is a coach's son, and Jim, of course, had sons who played for him. You know, heady, but the kind of guy who's a freshman. He's playing against the number 1, 2, or 3 team in the nation, and he has a lot of responsibility in this game, and he's trying to do it with some gusto. He has the penchant for making some fancy plays, so it's going to be interesting to see his development during the course of his career. Usually those kind of guys play very heady and get better as they go on.
Following the missed free throw, Mooring with the shot misses everything, and last touch by Jones. Now we'll step aside. 11:47 to go in the half. UConn by 16. Edmund Saunders, the former All-State player, with his first collegiate points. You're watching Big East basketball from ESPN+. Third-ranked UConn with an early 16-point lead over Quinnipiac on opening day here in Stores. Elsewhere in the Big East this afternoon, Georgetown hammering the University of Hartford in the second half by 22. And Notre Dame with an early lead over Yale. That one's being played in South Bend.
Lots of Connecticut teams playing today, as we see. Huh?
And two of them playing each other right here. We mentioned at the top of the telecast, UConn has won 41 straight against its Connecticut brethren. This is Pondexter, barely beats the 10-second violation to Grasso. Near side, Grasso again. Alagoli with the three. Rebound inside to Wong. Here come the Huskies. Moore looks up the floor to Rochabelle Jones. Offensive foul.
Well, Rochamel has had a very interesting career, hasn't he? I mean, he came in here as a highly regarded player, started as a sophomore, last 2 years is not a starter. As we see Ricky Moore getting to the right place, making a sound fundamental pass to his teammate. And yet he has handled that situation very well. Did great on their tour of England and Israel this summer. And of course, was he all in the Big East tournament last year, made all tournament coming in and playing for Kevin Freeman, who was injured in that tournament. So Rochamel Jones, great thing to have a guy like him.
Haven't seen great shooting by either team in the early going. UConn has forced Quinnipiac into 9 turnovers. Inside for the layup is McNeish. Bob McNeish, 6'7" sophomore from East Hartford, Connecticut. His first 2 points of the ball game as we approach the midway point of the half. El Amin back in, replacing Ricky Moore. Quinnipiac back in the zone. On the drive, El Amin. That finds the net.
That is strength, Bob. He is a physically strong young man. He hurt his shoulder. He's dragging his right shoulder a little bit.
8 points for El Amin. This is Colin Tabb, who's checked in for Quinnipiac. Rebound, Saunders controls. And up the floor comes El Amin, who tried to avoid the contact with Pondexter and is called for a travel.
That shoulder's still bothering him, as you can see. He's feeling it a little bit. He's turning his head that way a little bit. Right here, let's take a look and see how this happened. He drives. Everybody comes to help. You can see how he got a little hyperextended there. But he's staying in, so it doesn't seem to be bothering him too much. Or Coach Calhoun doesn't think it's bothering him too much.
Turnover number 4 for the Huskies. Pondexter defended by Albert Morey. This is Tabb. Drives over Voskuhl and lays it in. First 2 points for Colin Tabb in his career. Sat out last year with a knee injury. El Amin drives and draws the foul. McNeish was there. So was Alagoli. I think they'll get McNeish, and they do. That will be number 1 on McNeish.
Right here we see the penetration, 2-foot stop, under control, and he gets hammered. He got fouled by 2 guys. Do you get 4 free throws for that?
Don't think so.
That's not one of those new rule changes this year, how about?
The biggest new rule change this year, and we'll see whether we have an opportunity to witness it being put into service, is when you're on defense and you force a held ball, instead of going to the possession arrow, the defense is rewarded with the basketball. It primarily will happen if you block a player's shot and the offensive player comes down with the ball and you tie him up, or if the offensive player is holding the ball and you just simply reach in and tie him up. But the key is the offensive team has to have possession, and when the defense forces the held ball without it becoming loose, then the defense gets the basketball and the possession arrow remains unchanged.
Reward the defense.
Pondexter in the backcourt. UConn by 16. This is Alagoli, young man from Switzerland. Inside, McNeish wants to go on Voskuhl. Kicks it out to Alagoli. Back inside to McNeish. Pondexter resets the offense. McKenzie. Shot clock at 10. Alagoli wants to drive on Freeman. And the whistle from Tom Lopes. And we're going to get a foul off the ball on Quinnipiac. Joe DeSantis wants to know what the infraction was. McNeish gets nailed for his second. And Richard Hamilton will go to the free throw line.
At the line for Connecticut shooting 2, Richard Hamilton.
Quinnipiac with 7 players, Bob, on the team to start this season that weren't there to begin last season.
Well, in some ways, that's a good thing, isn't it? You know, they didn't really have stellar seasons their last 2 years, and he's got lots of new players, and I don't think it's going to be the same story for them this year in terms of their wins and losses. I think they'll be a better team than they were the last 2 years. Joe feels that way. And sometimes new blood is what gets you going, especially they're called the Braves, and they must be brave coming in here to play University of Connecticut.
Hamilton with 13, another turnover. Here's El Amin, the feed to Moore, and it's blocked inside by Ivory Stanley. And after the block, we will get a foul call from Jim Luchansky, and it will send the Huskies back to the free throw line.
Well, McNeish McMugged him on that play, and it's probably a good thing. You don't want to give layups in there, and he aggressively went after Kevin Freeman. Force Freeman to go to the line when he gets the ball that close to the basket. Freeman's an interesting story. You know, the guy is a warrior. He's referred to in that way by many people and most people. Quiet, does his job, lunch pail type guy. But his skills are developing, and you can see that he's developing his free throws. He's developing his outside shooting. He's just really an outstanding player and a real competitor. I think he's important for the development of Saunders. I think he's going to sort of bring him along and be a good example for Saunders to follow.
Foul was on McNeish's third. Freeman makes 1 of 2. Huskies 29-10. 9:20 to go in the half. This is Tab in the backcourt. Gets it across to Pondexter. Defended by Moore. And we'll get a 5-second call.
Well, Ricky Moore was voted as their outstanding defensive player, and Coach Calhoun loves him. He's been around, it seems like, forever. And he is a very good defender, can guard lots of different kinds of people. Was injured a little bit last year and recovered from that, and really is a guy that you want to keep on the floor all the time. He's the best guy in the Big East in terms of turnovers, assist to turnover ratio.
That was the 12th turnover for Quinnipiac. UConn is 12 of 16 from the line in the early going. That's a lot of free throws in the first 11 minutes of the game. El Amin with a little hop and buries it. The sophomore from Minneapolis has 13 points. Member of the United States gold medal winning Goodwill Games team.
It's no accident. It's no accident that these teams win.
And he likes Madison Square Garden, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. He does.
McKenzie using the glass. McKenzie, the lone starter back from a year ago. Donald El Amin, the most valuable player in the Big East tournament, won by the Huskies at the Garden last March. And the Huskies turn it over for the 5th time. It's 31-12. Bob Picozzi along with Bob Wenzel. Glad you could join us here from Gamble Pavilion and Stores. Opening day for the UConn Huskies and the newest Division I team in the country, the Quinnipiac Grays from Hamden, Connecticut. McKenzie tries to shoot over Voskuhl. That's not going to work. Here comes El Amin to Freeman. Leaves for Moore, but first takes an extra step for turnover number 6. We have a timeout with 7:57 to go in the half, and the nation's 3rd-ranked team, the UConn Huskies, up big. Big day here at UConn. As always, opening day for the Huskies. They've been very good in their openers. 9-3 under Jim Calhoun. 12-0 in their home openers under Jim Calhoun. Of course, they've also been very good in their second game. The thing they want to improve on is the last game.
Few games, that's right.
The last game. That's the thing they want to improve on. Going to the Final 8 for the 3rd time in the Calhoun era. Last March, losing to North Carolina in Greensboro.
But the thing that's interesting about it, in order to improve on that finish, you focus on what you're doing that's right in front of you. Try not to think about those things.
Grasso spinning and called for traveling again. Turnover number 13 for Quinnipiac. And Grasso, Joe DeSantis, his point guard, is having a very rough first half.
It's a rough day for him. The only alternative he has is to put Pondexter there, but you know, it's a tough situation for Grasso, and it's a tough situation for all the Quinnipiac players. A little push off by Vasco.
Yeah, a little. Sharp elbow from Big Jake. His second personal foul. UConn is now over the limit. So Quinnipiac should be shooting free throws as Rashamel Jones checks back in. You mentioned the sort of evolution of Rashamel Jones's career here at UConn under Jim Calhoun. He went from averaging 33 minutes a game as a sophomore to 14 minutes a game last year. And that really was because of the presence of Khalid El Amin, because it forced Richard Hamilton into a different position, Rashamel Jones's position.
That's right. And I think he's handled it well. You know, what would happen to a lesser guy of character? You know, he's handled it well. He stays ready. And when he gets his opportunities, he plays hard.
McNeish hits the free throw. Help is on the way for Joe DeSantis after the first semester, when that young man, Sean Tabb, a transfer from the University of Hartford, will become eligible, and he will play a lot for the Braves. He is the older brother of Colin Tabb, who we've seen a little bit here in the first half.
As Quinnipiac does its bit for the preservation of the family unit.
Hamilton misses the shot, and off the loose ball will head the other way. It's UConn by 18, 7:06 to go in the first half. Lots of traffic inside.
Well, here it's a pull-up play, and then everybody goes after the ball, and fortunately enough for Quinnipiac, they get the opportunity. But this is what they have to deal with. Jim's been changing the press a little bit. They're not using the same slides on every possession, so the traps come in different areas of the floor.
Stanley goes behind the back, but Jones picks up the ball after Quinnipiac's 14th turnover. Here's Ricky Moore, and he is blocked by McKenzie. For McKenzie, that will be personal foul number 1.
You can just feel Joe DeSantis on the sideline when there's a turnover, saying to his guys like McKenzie, get back, get back, get back. Because Joe knows that Calhoun's team can turn turnovers and missed shots into layups very, very quickly.
Moore misses the free throw as we get a look at the foul on McKenzie.
He just keeps his head strong, takes his arms off, and of course he's not going to give him a layup there. Makes him take the 2 free throws. Good foul by McKenzie.
E.J. Harrison back into the lineup for the Huskies, replacing Moore.
I really like Moore's defense and his presence and his experience. He's really a solid guy.
And he gives you a second point guard on the floor. Stanley drives over Saunders, rebound Juan. And here come the Huskies, up 19 with 6.5 to go in the half. Harrison takes it to the hole, called for the charge. The Big East this year has returned to the one conference format. No longer a Big East 6 nor a Big East 7. 13 teams in the league, same 13. Your thoughts on that, Bob, as a former coach in this league?
Well, it's much better this way, but they still don't all play the same schedule. The scheduling still has to be worked out. It's a difficult numerical, geometric thing to do. They don't play everybody twice, and next year they're going to go to 16 teams, which I think 16 games, which I think will be a lot better in terms of NCAA seeding and play for the teams in the Big East.
Well, we'll certainly give you more scheduling flexibility. UConn playing teams like Stanford and Michigan State outside the Big East this year. Michigan State will be here on December 5th. The Team Cleves versus Khalid El Amin. That ought to be something.
Boy, I'll say. 2 teams in the top 5. They're playing outside the league, and that's not to mention UMass.
Yep, the Huskies will play at the Mullen Center in Amherst this year. Juan with the jumper. We get the whistle. Quinnipiac is in the Northeast Conference. The Braves are the 11th team in that league, and these are the other teams who formed that conference.
Long Island University did great things the last couple of years. Charles Jones, the leading scorer in that league, and of course John I. Marino, the conference commissioner, used to be my SID at Jacksonville University a couple of centuries ago. Does a good job. How's that league going in the right direction?
Joe DeSantis' club will not be eligible to receive the conference's automatic bid to the NCAA tournament until the 2000-2001 season, and as a result will not be eligible to participate in the conference tournament. What would happen there if the conference let them participate and they somehow won the conference, then the league would be left without a bid without a team in the NCAA. So the conference doesn't want that to happen. So their season will end with their final regular season game.
You have to pay a big price to get into Division I, don't you?
Right. Well, it used to be an 8-year wait for the automatic bid in your league. Now it's down to a 2-year wait.
Hard to recruit when you have to tell kids that story.
Alagoli gives to McKenzie, and Juan rejects it, and not only rejects it, but adds insult to injury by knocking it off McKenzie and out of bounds. UConn ball.
I don't see frustration in the Quinnipiac players. I think they realize the situation they were in. They just continue to play hard, continue to try to make plays. This is going to be the biggest crowd they play in all year until they go to the Dome and play Syracuse up there, and this will prepare them well for their Northeast Conference season.
El Amin on the drive, kicks it out to Albert Mooring, back to Collins for 3.
That is an unbelievably good play right there. Great play by El Amin, and Mooring having the presence enough to know that El Amin was coming off that little screen and wide open. 15 points for El Amin, who, like Hamilton, preseason first-team All-Big East selection. Huskies 4 for 8 from beyond the arc. Quinnipiac is yet to hit a 3.
Dexter.
Well, I told you, Joe DeSantis likes his creativity. Rashamel Jones with the pull-up off the glass. Juan with the rebound and follow, and Jones tips it in. Have to love the hustle there, Bob. Very athletic play by Rashamel, who's not thought of as one of the better athletes on this team, but a sound-type fundamental player. With the steal, Saunders to Mooring. Back to Edmond for the finish. And Joe DeSantis says, let's talk it over. 20-second timeout with 4:23 to go in the half, and the UConn lead up to 25. Well, to get inside the huddle of your favorite Big East team, how about going online at www.bigeast.org for all the basketball and conference news from around the Big East. Big East off to a rough start, obviously outside the league, with Georgetown losing a couple of games in the Coaches versus Cancer Classic in New York, and Providence losing 2 in the COSIDA Classic in Providence. But how about the win by the Friars yesterday against 25th? They bounced back strong. They spanked them by 24. That's a great win for Providence, and you're going to see some of the more experienced teams. You know, the top teams in the Big East this year certainly are Connecticut, who we are watching here, Syracuse, Miami, and probably St. John's. But Rutgers and Pittsburgh have teams that have guys who have played for a long time, and I think you're going to look for them to develop good seasons this year as well. This is Grasso, drives the lane, puts it up, can't get it to go. Long rebound to Saunders. Up the floor, sees Mooring. Over McKenzie. On Dexter with the rebound. Here's Grasso as Quinnipiac looks to run. Drives on Saunders and draws the foul. Grasso has been getting to the basket, but has had trouble finishing. And I think as a freshman, he's probably not strong enough to be banging in there with these people. But he has the ability to get to the goal and the ability to get to the lane.
Edmund Saunders, his second personal foul, team 9th. At the line for Quinnipiac.
So Grasso will shoot a couple. Averaged 23 points a game his senior year. In high school a year ago, he's from Syosset, New York, played at St. Anthony's High School. Richard Hamilton, Kevin Freeman back in, Albert Mooring and Edmund Saunders sit down. I think Jim Calhoun, Bob, would like to go with a 9 or 10-man rotation this year. Grasso makes the free throw. We have a timeout with 3:49 to go in the half. Nate Pondexter with the athletic move, but his club trails UConn by 23. I'll tell you what, that makes things interesting, doesn't it, for both teams? A little bit different kinds of expectations for these two teams. But when you get down to the athletic part and the guys working in the gym every day, it's all basketball. And both of these teams well coached. Both teams have different aspirations, obviously, but they're all working on footwork, passing and shooting and executing their offense and team camaraderie. All those things are good lessons. This is Moore leaving for Jones. 10 seconds on the shot clock. Can't get it to go. Rebound to McNeish in the lane. And here comes Pondexter. Grasso is out of the game following the timeout, so Pondexter will play the point. McKenzie for 3.
I guarantee you that's what they practice every day. Point guard dribble penetration, and McKenzie spotting up in the corner. And unfortunately for them, UConn has an answer.
Rashamel Jones responding at the other end. We're under 3 minutes. UConn by 22. McKenzie called for steps.
You know, sometimes you wish you look at that and you say, geez, Tommy Lopes, just let that slide a little bit and try not to let that guy do it. McKenzie in the corner. Good looking shot, but he's not getting many clean looks like that. Huskies prevent clean looks by their opponents.
UConn second in the Big East in field goal defense a year ago. Second only to Miami, who led the country. Hamilton gets his shot blocked, gets it back. Here's Juan with the putback. Rebound, Freeman in traffic. Juan with the pickup, and he'll get to the free throw line.
Speaking of Miami, Bob, you know, they had their game last night, and they started off right where they left off. They had Florida International 31% from the field.
Number 30, Nate Pondexter.
They've got everybody back except their little guard Kevin Norris, and with Tim James and Mario Bland.
That three-pointer by McKenzie a moment ago makes it 120 straight games that Quinnipiac has hit at least one three-pointer. Suleiman Juan, the free throw line. 6'11" junior from the Senegal, became eligible at the conclusion of the first semester a year ago. And this is really, Bob, only his second year of organized basketball.
From Dakar, Senegal, Redemption Christian Academy. And they work fundamentals. Dave Lato works fundamentals with the big people in practice. And you can see that he's going to come. He's going to get better and better and better.
Pondexter leads for McNeish over Juan. Freeman with the rebound in the lane. Good block out by his teammate Hamilton. Moore inside Freeman.
Gives it up just at the right time. What a solid player.
4 points for Freeman as we reach the 2-minute mark with UConn up by 24. Alagoli to Grasso, who checks back in at the point. McKenzie, kick out Pondexter. Leaves for Alagoli. Back to Alagoli, who nails it.
When they get in their half court, they can run their stuff. You can see that they can be a competitive team, not at this level, but within their conference. They move the ball well, they share it well, but things at this end happen too fast for them.
Moore with the miss, Juan nearly with the offensive board. Instead, we go the other way with Grasso. McKenzie, wide open look. Few Quinnipiac fans in the building.
No give up in the guys in the gold shirts. It's nice to see guys compete like that, isn't it?
Right.
Little breakdown by UConn's defense, and Jim's not happy.
Yeah, and Jim Calhoun noticed that breakdown. He wants a 20-second timeout. A couple of other games in the Big East on this Sunday afternoon in the middle of November. Georgetown at home against the University of Hartford, leads by 21 in the second half.
Anthony Perry probably having a good day. The new freshman, and Kevin Braswell, the brand new backcourt for the Hoyas.
Yale hanging tough on the road in South Bend with Notre Dame, up by 5 in the first half.
And Troy Murphy, the freshman star for Notre Dame, one of the more highly recruited guys in the country, getting 19 points in their game the other night against Miami of Ohio.
Sorry, Bob. Jim Calhoun, as we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, the only coach in collegiate history with 250 wins at 2 different Division I schools, had exactly 250 at Northeastern, and has put up another 270 here at UConn. In all, 520.
His practice, you can obviously he's one of the best coaches, and if not the best coach in the country. But you know, his practices run so smoothly, intense, quick, you know, and yet he reads his players, knows how to react, and forces them to be as good as they can be.
Off the block, Quinnipiac gets a 3-on-1, but can't convert.
Ivory not happy. The give back, nice play, but no finish. for Stanley.
30 seconds remaining in the half. About a 6-second differential between the shot clock and the game clock. El-Amin to Moore. Shot clock at 10. Juan leaves for El-Amin. Back to Collins. Off the glass. Quinnipiac will have to hurry to get off a shot. Grasso is stripped by El-Amin, and that will end the half. So a very impressive first half for the nation's third-ranked team, the UConn Huskies, as they play first-year Division I opponent Quinnipiac, and UConn leads it by 21. The Connecticut Huskies won 32 games a year ago, well on their way toward win number 1 in 98-99. It's UConn by 21 as we begin the second half. 46-25 over Quinnipiac. Bob Patozzi along with Bob Wenzel. So glad you could join us for another season of Big East basketball. Opening day for UConn and the first ever Division I game for the Quinnipiac College Braves from Hamden, Connecticut. Located about an hour and 15 minutes from the UConn campus, and we're going to get a turnover off the ball. A foul on Quinnipiac. 17th turnover for the Braves. UConn is not a two-man team, Bob, but they have two pretty good ones.
They could be a two-man team, but they got lots of other players. Obviously, in a short amount of minutes, lots of points for those two guys.
Ivory Stanley picks up the third foul. First on Quinnipiac here in the second half.
This is a great building to watch a game and participating in. The lighting in here is really special. I think it's the best lit building in the United States.
Kevin Freeman with the putback for the Huskies. 48-25, UConn by 23. Full court pressure applied by the Huskies. This is McKenzie. Had a couple of threes in the first half and hits his third.
That's where they want him, spotting up in the corner. And that's if their problem is they can't get the ball through the press in order to get him the ball there quite often. If they can do that, he can score some points.
11 points for McKenzie. Bosco down low to Freeman. Head fake in the layup. Nice passing by a 6'11 center.
High-low action. Man on the high post gets it. Passes to the man in the low post. And, of course, Freeman has to position himself well in order to receive that pass, which he did in fine fashion.
Grasso defended by Moore. This is Nate Pondexter, the junior college transfer from Washington. Back to Grasso on the perimeter. Shot clock at 10. Pondexter gets the screen from Stanley. Clock at 3. Romano with the shot. Doesn't draw iron. Here comes Hamilton. Leaves for El-Amin. In traffic, Hamilton with the putback.
Richard Hamilton.
Does that remind you of a shot late in the season last year where a little action on the board and he catches it in the middle of the lane and pops it right back in?
Yeah, except he didn't fall down backwards afterwards. Bob, of course, referring to the buzzer beater against Washington in the regional semifinal down in Washington, D.C. Huskies versus Huskies. The UConn block results in a possession at the other end. Hamilton gives to El-Amin. Quinnipiac in the 2-3 zone. Freeman from downtown. Rebound Stanley. UConn will play the Washington Huskies in the DirecTV Grade 8 coming up at the United Center in a couple of weeks.
They will, and their coach Bob Bender, the only player in the history of the NCAA to play in 2 national championship games with 2 separate teams, one for Indiana and one for our Duke team, where I was coaching back in 1978. Outstanding young coach, doing a great job at Washington. They got one of the best big guys in the country there.
Pondexter with the shot, no good, but he is fouled by Khalid El-Amin.
Todd McCullough, have you seen him? Boy, oh boy, yep. I'll tell you what, he is some player.
Connecticut foul number 42.
Bosco will have his hands full that night at the defensive end.
Personal foul, team first. At the line for Quinnipiac.
So Pondexter will go to the free throw line. You mentioned that Duke team in '78, Bob. I think in the second round you beat Rhode Island, didn't you? A team led by Sly Williams. Well,
that's right.
The Fairfield team led by Joe DeSantis, Quinnipiac's coach, came within 2 points of knocking off Rhode Island in the ECAC New England semifinals at the Providence Civic Center. Sly Williams winning the game on a basket with 20 seconds left. That's how good that Fairfield team was.
You got a good memory. Joe probably had about 40 that night.
Well, he didn't have 40. El Amin hits the runner.
Is he strong? I mean, he just has great body control and strength when he takes the ball to the basket.
Oh, Hamilton with the spin. And the foul.
A little poetry in motion. This is a great spin move. Richard Hamilton. First of all, the pass from three-quarters court gets the ball to him. He gets cut off by Grasso and splits the defense with a little finger roll. And watch it here in fast motion. One for the highlight film.
Never know, this young man broke his foot in July while in camp for the U.S. team participating in the World Championship games. Couldn't play the rest of the summer. Couldn't accompany UConn on its trip to London and Tel Aviv and Jerusalem as a result.
And I think that's a good thing because the team got to play without him and try to develop scoring opportunities while Richard wasn't around. I think it's a very, very good thing for UConn to have happen.
Inside, it's McKenzie who gets the layup. Nice cut for the hole without the basket and rewarded for his effort.
That was a lazy switch by El Amin.
13 points. And a turnover for UConn. Jim Calhoun, what he wants to concentrate on with this talented team is keeping their heads in the game at all times.
Easier said than done. We're going to try to do everything we possibly can. We've even had a group person come in, a psychiatrist, to deal with our kids as a group. They'll be coming next week just to deal with that aspect of growing as a team, not necessarily worrying too much about what other people say, but more importantly, what we do.
Alagoli with the putback for Quinnipiac. UConn by 23, 57-34. El Amin, a long three.
Three-point basket by College.
22 points for El Amin. Now, Jim Calhoun, when he brought the psychiatrist, that was to talk to the players, not the coaches, right?
I think it was to talk.
Or was it one of those 2-for-1 deals?
No, I think he's got every base pretty well covered. And I think it's a very smart thing to deal with the mental part when you have lots of guys back off a team and an experienced team that went so far, and with the kind of publicity that these guys receive in this state, dealing with that publicity and those expectations is a very important part of their team.
Down low, Vosco misses the shot, but it'll get to the line. Jim Calhoun told me this week that his club has received more national media attention in the preseason than ever before, and that's a good thing. It's something that they certainly appreciate. But he says every inquiry from the national media was about the Final Four. No one wanted to know about their first game, their 10th game, their 20th game, the Big East race. They all wanted to talk about the Final Four.
Exactly. And the other thing that's happening with a lot of these teams right now who are the top teams, there's no NBA season, so those NBA scouts have to have something to do, so they've been hanging around at UConn's practices and other teams' practices as well.
Foul on Bill Romano was his fourth. Ivory Stanley also has 4 fouls, so Romano will sit, so will Alagoli. Bob McNeish back into the lineup for Quinnipiac as Voskuhl shoots his second free throw.
This guy's used to winning 4 state championships in high school, Big East championships here in his career at UConn.
So Voskuhl makes both free throws. UConn by 28. Jim Calhoun in control. You're watching Big East basketball from ESPN. Jim Calhoun's 13th year at UConn, his 27th year as a Division I head coach. Only 4 losing seasons in the first 26. Don't think this is going to be the 5th year. What do you think?
No, I don't think there's going to be many of those at all. You know, when you rebuild something, when you're getting started, you know, sometimes you have that kind of fortune. But the intensity with which this guy coaches and with what he does for his players is the envy of most people. And they've got a situation right here where they're cooking, and he's going to be demanding of them in practices, I guarantee you that.
I think there's another one that's probably safe. That 28-0 when leading at the half. UConn now up by 28.
Well, their style of play, where it's up-tempo and fast and lots of action, they tend to beat the teams they're supposed to beat. They're very infrequently would they get upset. Some teams that play a slower style sometimes can get upset, but not when you make plays like this.
Look out. Well, they call him Rip, right? And he ripped that one through. 20 points for the preseason All-American, who's a candidate for all of the major Player of the Year awards, the Wooden Award, the Naismith Award. Nice move by Nate Pondexter at the other end. 10 points for the junior college transfer. The no-look pass from Moore. Freeman wasn't looking either.
Moore was looking. Freeman wasn't. Both guys are supposed to do that. One of the elements of basketball. Both guys have to look at each other. Little jam action. Not one of the leading leapers in the country, I would say, but certainly capable of causing some excitement with his play.
Allison has scored more points in his first 2 years at UConn than any player did in his first two in UConn history. McKenzie on the wing.
And Ray Allen played here, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I wonder when the next time Ray Allen's going to play again. Ray and the rest of the NBA still sitting out the lockout. Allen, one of 9 players at UConn who played for Jim Calhoun, who went on to play in the NBA. Grasso misses everything. Rebound Voskuhl. Grasso reaches in and fouls. And Big Jake helps him up.
A little good sportsmanship there by the big guy and the little guy.
Joe DeSantis didn't like the call at all. He thought there should have been a foul.
Little come up short right here. And a little tackle action.
Voskuhl will sit down. Suleiman Wan replaces him. Joe DeSantis told me today that he couldn't possibly have more respect for Jim Calhoun and the Huskies, and mentioned how gracious that Jim Calhoun was yesterday when the Quinnipiac team came here to practice, and how he asked Joe, if there's anything I can do for you, let me know. And he feels that Jim is the sort of coach that he can rely on to call during the season, ask for some advice as Wan hits the jumper. Very good relationship between the veteran and the newcomer on the block.
It'd be nice if you could lend him some players.
Well, Calhoun told me this week that he wished DeSantis were one of those players that he could have had at Northeastern. He said, I tried to recruit Joe, but Joe, from a talent standpoint, was way out of our league.
You know, Jim's putting different combinations in here, too, as he plays. I'm sure he's thinking about down the line, if people are in foul trouble, who he's going to put back in the game. As a nice play by Pondexter there.
12 points for Pondexter. Here's El Amin the other way. Gets it right back. 24 for El Amin. UConn by 30 with 13 minutes remaining. Grasso defended by Albert Mooring. El Amin with the steal right in front of us. Can he beat everyone down the floor? Guess so.
Can El Amin dunk, Bob? Have you ever seen him dunk?
I haven't seen him dunk.
I don't think he can.
Well, he's only 5'10".
All those young players out there, you know, that could be great players without dunking.
Right. Joe DeSantis, a great player at Fairfield. He takes a 20-second timeout here. Matter of fact, Bob, I had the pleasure, and it was a pleasure, to call Fairfield's games on the radio during DeSantis' first 3 years there. There's a shot of Joe being guarded by Randy Levine of UConn. And as we mentioned, Joe was the all-time leading scorer at Fairfield when he graduated. He has since been surpassed by Tony George. He also is second in career assists at Fairfield, their leading free throw shooter ever. And he said that when he was an assistant coach at Pittsburgh, that would have been Joe's first year as an assistant coach in the Big East, before Pittsburgh played UConn in the sort of pregame traditional handshakes that go on in college basketball, Jim Calhoun said to him, "You were one of my favorite players in New England of all time." And Joe said, ever since then, I like Jim Calhoun.
Joe has a little less hair now than in that photo we brought to you.
Recruited by Fred Barakat at Fairfield University. Played on an NIT team at Fairfield, and 2 teams which went to the ECAC New England playoffs. This was all pre-Big East, pre-Atlantic 10, pre-Metro Atlantic. So the ECAC playoffs were where you wanted to be at the end of the year. That was your ticket to the NCAA. El Amin defended by Pondexter and fouled. In fact, in Joe's junior year, Fairfield went 22-3 in the regular season. then lost that game we mentioned to Rhode Island before in the ECAC playoffs, then lost to Dayton at Dayton in the NIT. Dayton had a guard who scored 30 points that night by the name of Jim Paxson. Went on to play at the next level. This is El Amin, defended by McKenzie. He'll shoot over them for three. Rebound, Edmund Saunders with the jump hook putback.
That seems to be his favorite shot. He likes the 2-foot takeoff. Protects the ball well.
6 points for Edmund. Off the loose ball. Saunders ahead of the field. The runner. Outstanding body control.
Well, you've got athletes out here, and part of being athletic is not just jumping and running. As you mentioned, outstanding body control, and that's what you need as a basketball player. That has to do with all of your physical training, your strength training, and then all of the complicated things that you do in practice to prepare yourself for competition.
Pondexter drives on Mooring. Kick out to McKenzie for three. Rebound, last touch by Romano. And we're going to get a timeout with 11 minutes and 19 seconds to go in the first half. Plenty for the UConn cheerleading squad to root about today. UConn up big. You're watching Big East basketball from ESPN+. Bob Wenzel at Gamble Pavilion. UConn up by 36 midway through the second half. Elsewhere today in the Big East, in non-league play, Georgetown a big winner over the University of Hartford. That game in Washington. And out in South Bend, Notre Dame leading Yale by 3 second half. Around the country, other ranked teams in action. Number 9 Tennessee with an early first half lead. Number 19 Arkansas an 11-point lead over Jackson State in the second half.
Arizona beat Tennessee last week in a last-second play. Very exciting game. Lots of excitement in college basketball already. Back to man-to-man.
I'm sorry, Bob Collintab in the lineup for Quinnipiac following the timeout. Albert Mooring for three. Rebound Juan in the lane. New shot clock. Out to Rashamel Jones. Off the screen comes Jones. Gets it back and drops. Half dozen for the senior from Port Chester, New York. Played his high school ball at Trinity Catholic in Stamford, Connecticut. Very heavily recruited. Best player in the state his senior year. As was Edmund Saunders his senior year at Holy Cross in Waterbury. On the drive, last touch by Saunders, and it will be Quinnipiac ball. Saunders went to the same high school that produced the great Tony Hansen, who for years was the leading career scorer here at UConn before Chris Smith broke his record back in 1992. And also Jim Abromaitis, who was a high school and then college teammate of Hansen. Off the steal, Jones feeds Albert Mooring.
We ought to have special situations for pre-3-point shooting and post-3-point shooting when we talk about people's career scoring, because three-point shot obviously has had a great impact on the game of college basketball, and I don't think when Hansen and Abromaitis were playing, certainly Abromaitis might not have taken any, but Hansen I'm sure would have.
Harrison with the foul, and I'll tell you someone who would have benefited from that three-point rule. How about the visiting coach today, Mr. DeSantis?
That's right.
Second on the team.
Down low, this is Romano. Spins, misses the shot, gets his own rebound. Wants to shoot over one again. Nice moves inside.
He's only a freshman, and he's going to be a very good player in the Northeast Conference. A guy like that develops over the course of 2 or 3 years. He has nice moves, and he's got good hands around the basket. He has a good understanding of what post players are supposed to do.
Saunders goes around Romano, loses the handle, gets it back, and feeds Juan.
Two-lane on one from Edmund Saunders.
5 points for Juan. We told you that Jim Calhoun considers Saunders his best passing big man. McKenzie called for steps, and the entire UConn starting five will check back into the lineup right now.
Mass substitutions.
Boy, Saunders did a nice job in that last sequence, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He got some points on the board. He was active around the basket. Watch this play right here. Nice fake up and under. He had to shoot it like a shot put to get it over Suleiman, but he follows Watch this step through here. Ooh. Makes the fake. Beautiful, beautiful move.
Kevin McHale couldn't have done it any
Just
better,
like
right?
you diagram it. Very sound fundamental player.
This is Moore. Around the screen comes Hamilton. Wide open look for three.
Three-point basket by Richard Hamilton.
Of the things that Hamilton does, coming off screens and reading how he is being defended off screens, is one of the best things that he does.
Nice look at
his left hand. The big man showing some things. He was in foul trouble in the first half. We didn't see a lot of that.
Hamilton feeds inside, and we'll get a foul by Quinnipiac. 41-point UConn lead.
Mr. Romano doing it.
His fifth foul, so that'll be it for Bill Romano.
Quinnipiac foul number 22, Ivory Stanley.
No, the foul's on Stanley. Let me correct myself, but it's his fifth.
Good, because I want to watch this guy a little bit more.
Look at the feed from Grasso.
Nice feed, and look at how he protects the ball from Jake by using the rim to prevent Jake from blocking his shot. Nice play.
Alagoli back in the lineup. Off the inbound, Hamilton. Bosca with the long rebound. Alameen to Bosca. Down low for Freeman. Couldn't find him, but Freeman gets it back off the loose ball. And Bosca with the putback. Colin Tabb in the forecourt. Goes cross-court Grasso. Down low Alagoli. Bosca rejects. Hamilton ahead to El-Amin on Tabb. Oh! Draws the foul. That will not count. The whistle before the putback.
That'll bring a smile to a player's face. El-Amin intentionally throwing it off the backboard. Court vision sees Kevin coming. And watch our man. He wants that to count badly. He's begging. He's begging for that to be an assist.
El-Amin a year ago led UConn in assists, averaging 4.2 per ball game. And was 9th in the league in that department.
What a package he is. I mean, look at the physical size of him. Strong, wide body, and yet able to move very, very quickly. And change speeds very well.
So the lead is up to 45 with exactly 8 minutes remaining. Alagoli to Grasso. You want Romano down low. Instead, Alagoli cuts. Rejected by Freeman, but the goaltending call by Jim Luchansky.
Sweet pass by Grasso on that backdoor play. Connecticut gets caught overplaying. And when they do,
we have a timeout. 7:49 remaining. Kevin Freeman with the rejection, but the goaltend. 28 points so far on opening day for Khalid El-Amin.
Well, he's certainly having a fine game. 9 for 12 from the field so far and doing all kinds of things, leading the break, dishing and shooting and taking it to the basket strong. Guy has incredible skills and he's going to have a great year.
Jim Calhoun says that when he recruited El-Amin and he made the home visit, in the middle of Jim's presentation, El-Amin said, I want to know the answer to one question. Are you recruiting me to be Ricky Moore's backup? Jim Calhoun said no. And that basically turned the tide, and El-Amin decided to come here. Freeman with the basket. He's got 10. So you see, you can play 2 point guards on the floor at the same time. UConn, I think, has demonstrated that it works reasonably effectively.
Sometimes people get into too much of positions, you know, Bob. You know, it's guard, it's ball handling, it's passing, it's shooting, it's skills. It's not necessarily positions.
El-Amin with the wild toss, 4-on-1 the other way. Not exactly the way you diagram that, but Grasso with good hustle gets another shot. Pondexter fakes, called for steps.
Pondexter made a cute move there and tried to put the ball under Jake's waist to make his hand come down and then shoot it over him, but he moved his feet when he did it. Not one of the better plays that El-Amin has made today. It's under the basket and just kind of flips it. Nobody home.
Well, he knew he sensed that Freeman was there. This is the 4-on-1, and that's not the kind of shot you look for on a 4-on-1. Freeman with the jump hook inside.
Connecticut obviously asserting its power inside with Freeman and Saunders, and even all their smaller players can take the ball inside as well on dribble penetration.
Freeman with a dozen as UConn approaches the century mark. 91-46, 6:20 remaining. This is Romano. Nice dribble on the floor, but he runs over Freeman. Got by one man, Bosco, but Freeman with the good help defense draws the charge. And that's number 5 on Romano. We invite you to get inside the huddle of your favorite Big East team and go online at www.bigeast.org for all the basketball and conference news from around the Big East.
Nice game by that young man. He's going to be a nice player this year for them as well as in his career.
6 points for Romano in his collegiate debut as he fouls out. Bosco inside, no good. Almost tapped in the wrong hoop by McNeish before he pulls it down. Grasso will bring it up the floor. We're under 6 minutes left. Alagoli, right side jumper. Rebound, Ricky Moore, the senior co-captain from Augusta, Georgia. Bosco jumper. Rebound, Saunders. Head fake and the finish. Been an impressive debut for the
certainly has.
sophomore from Waterbury.
He certainly knows what to do with the ball when he gets it in the paint. Assortment of ways to get the ball to the basket. That's the 3rd time that UConn's been beaten on that back door from the top of the key.
Pondexter for 3.
Quinnipiac 3-point basket by Nate Pondexter.
And we go the other way. That could have been a 4-point play. Hamilton missed the shot. Will get to the line, and he will get 3 free throw attempts. Joe Vigna with the call, working the game with Tom Lopes and Jim Lachansky.
A guy like Pondexter, watch him on this. Great shot of him chasing this down. He wants to compete. He wants to play against Richard Hamilton. Knew he was off his feet and didn't want to make that foul. Darn it. But a guy like that has some stories to tell down the road. The time that he played against the #1 team in the nation and he guarded the #1 or 2 or 3 player in the country. Those are nice memories for a guy like Pondexter.
First miss for Hamilton from the free throw line today. Now 4 of 5. This is what Rip has done and on opening day so far.
Averaged 21 last year, was the 2nd leading scorer in the league last year, and is on his way to being in that stratosphere again.
33, Andrew McKenzie replacing Colin Tabb.
17th in the country in scoring a year ago was Hamilton.
I wonder why Klaber hasn't been in the game. He must be in the doghouse in some way, shape, or form, unless he's injured.
Well, Claybird did play in both exhibition games.
And Justin Brown, obviously, with him not playing in this game, you got to think that Coach Calhoun maybe is thinking of redshirting him.
And Bo Archibald, another newcomer on this year's team, a transfer from Washington State, also had a stop at a junior college, will almost certainly be redshirted for medical reasons. He has a bad knee. It doesn't appear like he's going to be ready to go anytime soon.
Had 2 knee surgeries last year, right? And both for patellar tendonitis. As we look at Rush, you know, it's funny when you put in a second group and you got a guy like Josh Jones in there who's played in all kinds of great games and has been everywhere to play basketball. He's sort of the glue that will keep the second group together.
95-49 UConn. Grasso drives
nice
to McKenzie. McKenzie with the jumper.
Andrew McKenzie.
I believe McKenzie's going to score some points this year in the Northeast Conference. If they can find him, this guy has very nice rhythm.
Got 15 today at 23 in Quinnipiac's 2nd exhibition game last Sunday. Saunders beats Alagoli to the block, gets the pass, and draws the foul.
Alagoli doesn't know quite how to guard a physical player in there as we watch McKenzie at the other end. I love that hairstyle. Ball fake. 1 dribble. Come up. Bingo. Only guy on Quinnipiac's team who played every game last year.
And the only returning starter from a year ago. So we will get a look at Edmund Saunders at the free throw line. Saunders did not academically qualify to play as a freshman, so it was a very difficult freshman year for him. He obviously just killed the young man to not be able to play. But he weathered the storm, and here he is. And so far, he's been sort of the model teammate, young man to coach for Jim Calhoun. There were some questions about that, what his attitude might be. But Jim Calhoun thus far is nothing but pleased with Edmund Saunders. Alagoli with the jumper. UConn by 42. Here comes Jones to Saunders. Gets his own rebound and draws the foul. He's played very hard today.
He really has, and I think the Freeman influence and just the influence of the program. You come in here, you're expected to do things, and things will happen for you. Right here, jump stop at the free throw line. Look to finish the play, go up strong. We'll see how he does on his free throws here.
Edmund Saunders will shoot 2.
While Saunders was in high school, his dad passed away, and Edmund mentioned that he was so impressed at the concern that Jim Calhoun and Howie Dickerman was an assistant coach here at the time, and how they expressed over Edmund's family at a time of need. That was long before Edmund had committed to coming to UConn.
Well, he's got double points in his first game and has not shot well from the free throw line, but he can finish around the glass. We know that. He's proven that tonight.
Missed all 4 free throw attempts. Exactly 4 minutes remaining. UConn by 42. Not at all a surprise. McKenzie for 3. And in the lane, a rebound pushing foul will go on McNeish.
He pushed Suleiman in the back as he was up in the air and tried to use his physical nature. Not a leaper, but a space eater.
We mentioned Sean Tabb, Bob. He will become eligible for Quinnipiac at the conclusion of the first semester, and so will a young man named Jamar Fields.
St. Raymond's High School.
Yeah.
In the Bronx. McNeish is a competitor. There's
Sean
man of
Tabb.
whom you speak.
At the line for Connecticut shooting 2, Suleiman.
They both will become eligible on December 21st.
Both Division I experience. Fields at St. Louis. Tabb at Hartford.
Juan with his second free throw attempt.
Looks smooth on that one.
And we're going to get a timeout with 3 minutes and 52 seconds to go in the ball game. UConn up by 43. Joe DeSantis and his Quinnipiac Braves, their initiation into the Division I ranks.
The
Not
only
at all
team.
unexpected. Not at all unexpected, Bob.
No, not unexpected at all. The only team in Division I whose school begins with the letter Q. So if you get that in a trivia question sometime, you'll know what the answer is.
In case there's a bonus question, there are 4 schools, period, that begin with Q. 2 of them Queens College, the other one Quincy.
All right, let me ask you this.
Uh-oh.
All right, this is going to be on you now. What letter in the alphabet is represented by no schools?
Well, that would have to be Z.
You got it. I asked that to somebody the other day. They said Xavier.
Obviously, someone who majored in spelling. What school did that person attend? There you see Quinnipiac has shot well from the foul line, but has had very few opportunities.
Well, that's always a function of size and talent there. They're not getting the ball to the basket, and certainly UConn is.
Nate Pondexter with the free throw. 3.5 minutes remaining.
Questions come up into your mind when you watch a game like this. And you say, why did Quinnipiac come here and play with a Division I team? Well, they're going to see ESPN highlights. They're going to see their name on the ticker where they wouldn't normally see it. And I think it adds a little publicity to their program. Also, financially speaking, they get a guarantee when they come here to play. So there's lots of very positive things that you can take from a situation like this. And they play Syracuse as well, and they'll get those same things from that game.
Well, I guarantee one thing. Joe DeSantis doesn't regret anything that happened today.
He's got to feel good about the way his guys competed and the way they hung tough.
He wishes his team played better, don't get me wrong, but he doesn't regret the decision to play the game at all. And he'd love to have the opportunity to do it every year. When you're an athlete and when you're competitive, you want to play and compete against the best.
You certainly do.
Pondexter misses the shot, gets the rebound, blocked by Juan, but Pondexter hangs in, gets it back again. And this time Juan will be called for the goaltend.
I'm not sure that ball was getting to the basket.
It's time for our best play of the game, brought to you by Advance Auto Parts. The best part is our people, and here it is. Khalid El Amin with 2 of his 28.
And certainly he was advancing not by auto but by foot all through the defense. Great game by El Amin.
Khalid within 2 points of his career high. I doubt we're going to see any more of him today. Saunders off the glass. There's Juan cleaning up, and Saunders with the putback. I know it sounds like we're beating a dead horse, but Edmund Saunders has just played hard at both ends of the floor today, and about the only thing he's done wrong is go 0 for 4 from the free throw line.
Good debut for Edmund. Exactly what you want to get out of a situation like that, where he gets a little confidence, gets some points on the board.
Off the steal, Harrison, and UConn hits the century mark. And another steal. 3-on-2. Albert Mooring. Then the rebound Harrison controls, gives to Juan. And Alagoli pulls it down for Quinnipiac.
Some fast action late. Back and forth, aggression.
Inside, it's Grasso. He will draw the foul from Juan and go to the line. So from here, Quinnipiac will go home to play their first ever Division I home game, and that will be against Army on Wednesday. Next up for UConn, a date here at Gamble Pavilion against the University of Richmond on Thursday night.
And that man right there has a lot to think about. And I think the big thing for them this year, as he talked about before the game, is really focusing in on getting better, focusing in on looking what's right in front of them, and not start worrying about the Final Four yet, not start worrying about late in the season. And for the fans of UConn to enjoy their team and to enjoy watching their team play and watch the development of the guys who don't get to play as much.
Answer Klaber gets into the lineup for the final minute 22. It's UConn 100, Quinnipiac 58. The Huskies' Big East opener will be December 12th at Pittsburgh. Panthers under Ralph Willard, of course, with all Big East preseason performer Montego Cummings. Mooring and Saunders play the 2-man game. Kick out to Harrison. Shot clock at 10. Harrison for 3. Rebound in the lane, McNeish. Less than a minute to go.
McNeish. He got up well on that. Nice strong hands.
Well, Quinnipiac's played hard for all 40 minutes. McKenzie for 3. Rebound Saunders. His pass blocked. Mooring gets it anyway. Jones. Sometimes, even when you screw things up, you get 2, huh?
When things are going right, they're going right. That was not a lob pass to the intended receiver.
Less than 30 seconds remaining in the ball game. Down low, Alagoli. Nice move, and the foul on Saunders. Alagoli might be, Bob, Quinnipiac's most talented player.
Well, he's just such a young guy, and his body is so thin that he can't keep pace with the physical nature of the game that he's come to in the United States. But he does have lots of skill in terms of, if that's what you're talking about, talent. He does have lots of skills. He shoots the ball well. But I'll tell you what, with Pondexter and with Romano developing and with all of the new players that they had, I think Jared Grasso is going to be a good contributor for them. And with McKenzie being the solidifier outside shooter on this team, I think they've got a lot of things to look forward to at Quinnipiac this year.
Richard Moore and Ed Tonella. A couple of walk-ons get into the lineup for the Huskies for the last 20 seconds. Rebound Saunders. Shot clock is off.
Everybody wants him to shoot.
Tonella actually started his career at University of Arizona. He'll get the shot off. Rebounded by Tabb. Ahead to McKenzie. And it will not count. So that is it. And the UConn Huskies with Jim Calhoun, a very impressive 42-point win. Final UConn 102, Quinnipiac 60. We'll be back to wrap things up from Gamble Pavilion in a moment.